At the gateway of Sydney Harbour looms a silent sentinel. The North Head Quarantine Station, a place of arrival and hope for thousands of migrants. But it also bears the scars of suffering and shattered dreams, earning it the title of Australia's most haunted site. I'm Bianca Biassi. I'm a filmmaker investigating experiences that I believe many people have but are too afraid to talk about.
If there's someone in here with us, can you come forward and make your presence known?
Ghosts or dreams, fact or fiction. For me, this was personal. I am drawn to this place, not by choice, but because I was beckoned here. Seeking the truth between this world and another. As a child, there was one place close to my home I swore I would never go. But in 2012, as I passed through these gates with a chill down my spine, I reminded myself, never say never. There is a lot of reported paranormal activity on this site. On Sydney's northern beaches, the quarantine station is legendary. It's where locals and visitors alike come to give themselves a good scare. A perfect location for my first feature, a horror film. What else? Since late last century, nocturnal ghost tours have been held at the quarantine station grounds. My brother actually used to basically scare me with those stories of the haunted quarantine station.
I've actually been to the ghost tours, the previous ghost tours here twice, maybe 3 times. Used to like bringing some dates up here and getting them scared, so I would want to cuddle or get close. And some stories could have been true, some was probably made up. But I think the ones that stood out to me was a little girl who just run up and choked people, you know, and the people actually can feel and have red marks afterwards of being choked.
Now, even in daylight, it was easy to see how this historical place had such a ghostly reputation. For over a century and a half, this sprawling complex was the first port of call for vessels carrying the contagion of disease. Of the 13,000 individuals processed through its gates, almost 600 perished, taken by diseases such as smallpox, Spanish influenza, and yellow fever. A lot of people obviously died here in ways that weren't very pleasant. I think there would have been the emotional mark of coming here with so many hopes and dreams and that just being shattered. I think that that's got to leave some sort of an imprint on a site. The dead were buried on these grim grounds in graves, both marked and unmarked, a world away from their homelands. Over the years, the North Head Quarantine Station became synonymous with loneliness, isolation, suffering, and allegedly, the spirit of the dead. Certainly, it was a great location for a horror movie, but it was also giving me the creeps. Like much movie work, it was early starts and late finishes. At first, I thought it was due to sheer exhaustion, but more and more cast and crew started reporting strange occurrences.
The lights on the cameras would start flickering. We started recording, and about 5 seconds into the recording, the tape just cut off. The shower room. You'd walk in and your footsteps would echo longer than echoes should. All the spirits, the ghosts, they turned it up.
I remember when we were filming, I was crewing, waiting outside, and the door just slammed shut. If words could be spoken behind the slamming of that door, someone would have screamed, "Get out!" No words were spoken. They didn't need to be.
Tiffany, my daughter, she was in the bathrooms. She was in there by herself, and the doors just started slamming and the taps turned on. And she knew there was nobody else in there because she went in there and checked it before she went into the bathrooms.
In the morgue, I was petrified because the door was closed and I was in there by myself, and that smell only really arose when I felt presence.
In the gravedigger's cottage, it was just a really cold chill. All the windows were closed, but it felt like a hand was just stroking you.
There was actually a feeling that came running up my back or my neck. It was just that, just a sense of something.
They had a medium on set here, and she had the experiences of people coming into her, and to see her running down a hill screaming, and she's an older lady, and screaming, "Where are my children? Where are my children?" It's crazy.
I decided I needed to know more about the strange goings-on here. So I contacted one of the tour guides, Dean Durand, and agreed to meet him on site.
I've been told that you are the go-to tour guide for anything paranormal.
Yeah, I've been known to dabble in it,
Okay.
and I've been here for 10 years, so...
As well as being a paranormal buff in general, Dean describes himself as a ghost hunter and a sensitive.
A lot of people refer to me as a bit of a Fruit Loop in the respect that when I go on a holiday, I don't actually look at what historical locations are around. I actually go what haunted locations are around. I've had too many experiences to just discount that there's nothing out there.
Dean took me on a grand tour of the site.
We're currently walking along the balcony of H2. So it was the original brick hospital constructed around 1913. It's a great little location up here. So much death and disease here, but so picturesque.
Gorgeous.
The stairwell going up the tree line there, that was the old funicular railway system. So that would have taken all the luggage up to healthy ground after it had been disinfected. On this particular balcony, I have encountered quite an angry energy, like a male energy, who I believe to be a doctor. Just on the other side of the building, on the other balcony, was what they call the dying room. I mainly feel the final moments of someone's passing. So I can walk into a location and I can be overcome with extreme emotion, and sometimes it physically manifests itself. One of the privileges of working here at the site, it was encouraged to spend time in the buildings after tours. And there was 2 other guides with me, and we just decided we would go up to the hospital and introduce ourselves to matron, because she is the matriarch of the site. And from a paranormal standpoint, if you want activity on this site, you need to get her on side and make her understand that you don't mean any disrespect while you're on this site. So we went up there for a few hours, and I was lying on one of the hospital beds. The other 2 noticed that I had gone like dead silent, pardon the pun. And they came over to me, and I was lying in the bed, just like shaking in the bed and struggling to breathe. When I put 2 and 2 together, like Spanish influenza, you would have had, and especially tuberculosis, you would have had that sheer pressure on my chest, bleeding of the lung.
That night left me thoughtful. For people like Dean, these experiences were clearly very real. Pondering this, memories of my own began to surface. Of supernatural encounters I was still convinced had occurred in my childhood bedroom.
I had my first paranormal experience when I was about 5. I'd get this really creepy feeling, and you know, hairs would go up on my arms, and I'd kind of go, okay, you know, there's something in the room. I could feel someone watching. I could feel someone right there, and it would really scare me.
Curiosity continued to push at the boundaries of my fear. I started to explore the grounds of the quarantine station, documenting on camera everything I saw and heard, and researching more about the history of the place. After serving the sick and dying for over 150 years, North Head Quarantine Station officially ceased operation in 1984. For the next 2 decades, the deserted site was overseen by National Parks and Wildlife. It was brought back to life in 2004, when the location was leased by a hotel group and reopened as Q Station. It was now a conference and reception centre with resort-style accommodation, dormitories transformed into guest rooms, and mess halls into reception rooms for lavish weddings looking over the harbour. To delve deeper into the past, I met with Suzanne Stanton, not only a principal of the group which reinvigorated the site, but co-author of the book From Quarantine to Q Station.
We thought that it was really important that someone actually recorded the growth of this place from an Indigenous place of health and well-being through the time that it was here during white colonial settlement, the time that it really was nothing at all, through the Vietnamese war orphan period, and then when we eventually took it over and did what we call adaptive reuse of the site. And so it really documents the whole history of this place, including the natural environment.
Ships would have been met outside the heads by a medical officer. He would have thrown a Bible up on the ship in a metal box and had the captain swear as to whether there was disease on board. Then they would do an inspection. He would look to see if there was any signs of infectious disease, and if there was, then the ship would be brought to the quarantine station. The first ship to be quarantined here was the Basora Merchant. It was a convict ship that came here in 1828. And it turned out that the captain went to Sydney and docked and went out to dinner before anybody realized there was smallpox aboard the ship. And those people that were infected with smallpox were eventually brought here to our beach, and they were just in tents on the beach. They had guards, there was no medicine for them, there was no doctors or nurses to take care of them. And I think they were here for 6 weeks.
With the increase in migration, the site was rapidly developed and quarantine processes streamlined. On arrival, migrants, crew and cargo were put through a strict disinfection regime in the wharf precinct. Passengers' luggage was sent to huge sterilisation chambers and put through steam-pressed autoclaves served by a massive boiler house. All clothes were washed in the laundry, which I later discovered was another paranormal hotspot. Shower blocks accommodating 100 or more stalls were nearby. All arrivals were required to shower before going to their sleeping quarters. According to the tour guides, the energy here was very disturbing. Once showered, passengers were transported via funicular tramway to high ground and separated according to their class of passage. First, second and third class had separate accommodation and dining facilities. Sadly, apart from class distinction, the third class precinct also reflected racial division, with passengers of Asia-Pacific background being segregated into what became known as the Asiatic Bloc. This area is now renowned for ghostly sightings. For many quarantined here, it was a waiting game before they could be discharged if showing no sign of illness. For some, it is fondly remembered as an imposed holiday. But for the sick and those exposed to infectious disease, the notorious hospital and isolation precinct was their destination. Death was a constant here, and sensitives report that the energy in this part of the site is particularly troubling. The mortuary and first-class cemetery were close to hand, as was the gravedigger's cottage, infamous for paranormal experiences. As Dean the guide pointed out to me, there was a clear division between sick and healthy ground. Everywhere I turned, the place was steeped in history, and the mark of so many people from so many cultures etched in stone. I was stunned to realise there were more than 100 inscriptions in languages other than English: Chinese, Japanese, Indonesian, Arabic, Russian, Greek, Italian, just to name a few. It dawned on me that so many lives from different backgrounds had passed through here, and many of those lives had been lost.
There often wasn't any clergy, so people were being buried without the practices of a clergy delivering the burial.
One highly publicised case at the time was the death of resident nurse Annie Egan from Spanish influenza.
Spanish influenza killed between 20 and 100 million people at the end of World War I. And Annie Egan was here as a volunteer to take care of some soldiers, and she actually contracted the disease. Annie Egan was an Irish Catholic, and when her family realized that she was probably not going to make it, they asked the administration of the site if they could have a priest come in to deliver the last rites, and it was refused.
It was a common belief for Catholics, as Annie was, that without those last rites, a spirit may never be free.
When Annie did die, having not received the sacrament of the last rites, there was a huge uproar in Sydney, and they were saying things like pagan practices at the quarantine station. It was quite controversial.
Annie's torment was shared by the Catholic community, including Archbishop of Sydney, Michael Kelly. Unable to secure the comfort of a priest for Annie, Kelly held a mass in her honour and took a detail of priests to the gates of the quarantine station, demanding entry. They were threatened with arrest, but this escalated public outcry, and authorities eventually backed down. The storm around Annie's death and the chastising words of Archbishop Kelly still echo down the ages.
Let it be remembered that Nurse Annie Egan has won the martyr's crown. They have given her military honours at her funeral, as if she had no soul.
Could the fact that people who were not given a proper religious burial be the reason why this place seemed to be plagued by alleged hauntings and restless souls?
I do think that paranormal belief in a spiritual realm of supernatural occurrences very much is compatible with Christianity. The Bible is full of dreams, visions, unusual happenings.
Despite the site now functioning around the clock as a hotel resort, reports of unusual happenings continue to accumulate. After approaching Q Station management about documenting a paranormal investigation on site, I negotiated unrestricted access to the site, a first time for any filmmaker. I took up residence in a makeshift production office, located in what was supposedly the most haunted part of the site, the Wharf Precinct. I started my investigation by talking to the tour guides.
Well, one night I had a group in here. I noticed that there was a young lady walking beside me, fairly short, and it looked like she had long hair. And as we got to the door, I turned to her and I said, "After you," but she wasn't there.
I had a really small tour and I opened the door. When I opened the door, very clearly standing behind the door was a man, and he just glared at me, and he had brown hair and really evil
My name's Chris. I'm a tour guide here. I have been for almost 4 years. I am considered a psychic, but, you know, different degrees of that. And I do have visual encounters out here literally every night. I very rarely hear things, but from a visual standpoint, it's an exciting place.
How long have you been psychic? How long have you known?
I really became aware of it when I was about 10. I had an incident where I woke up in the middle of the night and something was standing next to me. I found myself standing in front of my bedroom door with my hand on the handle going, why the hell am I here? What am I doing? And then turned around and there it was, making this kind of rattling noise in its throat. And it came back and visited for a few weeks and then disappeared.
What was it?
I never figured it out, but because of the height, it would have been quite small, maybe another kid. Yeah, to me it looked just like a black stick figure that would sometimes be standing beside me if I woke up standing up, or sometimes sitting on the end of the bed, or sometimes sitting on the ceiling cross-legged, just sort of looking back at me like that, which was eerie at the time, but now I look back on it and it doesn't seem quite so strange.
I'm sure you see a lot here that would put that to shame.
Yeah, there's one spirit called the Twins, which really gets me in a similar way to how I felt when I first saw that thing.
Here?
Yeah. Yeah,
Ooh, tell me about the Twins.
I had visions of something like in The Shining, but it was weirder than that.
The Twins is I don't know if it's one entity that splits itself into different spots or whether it's literally twins who stand side by side, but when I see it, it looks like about a 6.5 foot tall person, just pure white from head to toe. Usually it's not wearing clothing.
The ones that really convinced me were the ones that just were very detailed about what they saw.
It's got a fairly blank face, like I can't see where the eyes are, I just see the mouth and the ears and the rest of the body. I do remember seeing like rib cage moving in and out when I last spotted it.
You could see that emotion in their eyes, you could see that they had actually experienced something.
It's a photo of someone's wedding. Look at this. I reckon they caught a ghost in the picture.
After a call out for evidence of ghosts on site, pictures started coming in. I saw photos of murky shapes taken on site. What paranormal enthusiasts would call a shadow person, a type of spirit entity.
Do you know, one night I had a pretty much a whole tour leave the building very quickly, and pretty much everyone saw a shadow of a man standing behind me.
Some guides even claim to have captured paranormal evidence, such as EVPs or electronic voice phenomena. Supposed spirit voices caught on a recording device.
Is anyone in here?
The so-called proof was piling up, but I wanted evidence of my own. So I tagged along with the guides as they completed site checks before their tours. This is when I discovered things could get physical.
So I was standing right here near the stove. Big shock, and literally went sideways and turned around expecting someone had bumped into me in the dark, and there was nobody there. It may very well have been Pantry Man.
Apparently Pantry Man wasn't the only culprit.
You in here, Sam?
It turned out the ghost known as Sam the Gravedigger
Good evening, Sam.
was a serial shover too.
But I was standing here, and I always say at the end of the tour is, is everyone out? We don't want to leave anyone in there with Sam. And this gentleman was the last one out, and I was standing here, and as he got towards me, he literally just fell out. He said, someone just pushed me.
There was a very, very large man standing about here. He said, I felt 2 hands on my chest and then a violent push.
Clearly, Sam didn't like visitors.
Very, very, very uncomfortable.
Or having his room rearranged.
Close that door. I can almost guarantee that when we come in here later on, that door will be open. You know, interestingly, when we went into that second bedroom, I was getting a feeling there was someone in there at that time. There is someone in here now. As I said, the door will be open.
Apparently, this phenomenon occurs all over the station.
Can you open the cupboard door for me, please?
One guide captured footage of it happening in the hospital wing.
The one on the left side. Oh my goodness. Thank you. As you can see, nobody is here but me.
Besides the tour guides, I also talked to a couple of ghost tourists who had experienced more than they expected at the gravedigger's cottage.
To the side of the cottage, there was a couple of little sandstone steps. And I was sitting there with my son. And for about, it seemed like 5 or so seconds, I was being choked. So I felt like I couldn't breathe, felt like hands were around my neck, and I was being choked. And I'm sort of trying to look at Matt and sort of like freaking out a little bit. I think Matt was, I looked at you towards this side, and I'm being choked. It was weird. And then, I don't know, it might have been like 5 seconds, and then it was sort of just gone.
So you actually grabbed at your neck, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Tour guide Dean had warned me it was a tradition to knock before entering.
Take a precaution before we go in. All good? Let's see if Sam wants to play with you today.
No thanks. Freaking out already.
So if you can just walk through and let me know if you start to feel anything.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, okay. Gosh.
Wander around.
It's a lot better during the daytime, put it that way, but when you walk in here at night time, it's pretty freaky.
Freaky? Don't I know it? I was the one working the graveyard shift. I pored over the evidence, often working late into the night in my office. Once the ghost tours were over, I thought I was completely alone. Until I bumped into another denizen of the dark. Casper, the friendly night manager.
What I do here is I balance the books for the end of day for all of the departments. And generally those are the times where I'm out on the property where I do see things.
Having worked the graveyard shift for years, Casper seemed no stranger to paranormal activity.
I looked out and saw a couple walking up out of the water. The clothing that they're wearing now is from the 1800s to 1900s. They would possibly have been first-class passengers.
Casper took me to another location where she had experienced paranormal activity.
I noticed in here there was a flickering light. I called out to see if anyone was here and it automatically stopped. It was definitely an entity here.
I followed Casper on her nightly rounds. She wanted to take us to the safe room. She warned us that this particular location was very active.
Oh. Me.
It's in here.
Yeah, I can't walk in there.
No, it's in here.
Didn't you feel that, Blake? That hit me so hard. All I can explain it as was it was like a force just brushed past the side of me and literally knocked me back.
From when I first started working here, I could feel an entity in this safe.
This particular spot is actually what she believes to be the most haunted location on site.
There is something that launches itself off my head and out through the door. There is definitely something in this building.
That's nuts.
My close encounter with Casper's physical entity left me a little rattled.
You just
not pleasant.
Yeah,
I'm gonna knock. Yeah.
Now you're out.
Yeah, no, I'm good. Good.
I guess I forgot to knock.
I can firsthand guarantee that I have experienced something in this room. We walked in, I walked past this, and it was as if something had hit me on the side of the ear, and it literally put my head into a tailspin. It felt like I was almost in like a vortex. The only thing I could describe it as is I felt like I was underwater. It took me a couple of minutes to kind of, you know, get my bearings. I mean, you saw that, Blake. That was weird. I was genuinely taken aback by that experience. So much so, I wanted to ensure it was, in fact, supernatural of nature. I was standing near the station's server rack when it occurred. Could there have been a scientific explanation? I learnt that scientific experiments had demonstrated that fluctuating electromagnetic fields applied to the temporal lobes of the human brain have produced haunting-type experiences, such as the perception of a presence or the sensation of being touched. And it has been documented that sites associated with hauntings tend to be subject to erratic electromagnetic fields. We got you.
Lucky for me, we had an electrical engineer in the family.
Hi, Dad. How you doing?
Nice to see you.
I was keen to get his take on what had happened.
We've got Bianca here, and we've got Dan, our colleague, who's also the cameraman.
Peter, I had an interesting little incident occur doing the rounds with the night manager.
I described my experience and showed him a video of the room.
From what you told us, it was quite a dramatic thing. So what do you feel, was it just on the side of your head that something brushed past?
It was literally straight past my ear, and it was coming from the front direction.
The only question I might have is whether you were charged up in some way through static. For example, walking on a carpet, touching something metal, and you get a little tingle.
No. So I wasn't touching anything. Number one, I was walking, and it wasn't a tingle or an electric shock. It was as if something brushed past me with great force, hit the side of my ear, and pushed me back.
It just seems very dubious. Electrical apparatus is designed to be safe, and the racks themselves are well grounded, so they would make sure that any charge would be neutralised on the grounding of the rack. And you didn't actually touch the rack at all, you just walking past it.
Just walking past, yep.
The only way you'd be looking at sort of like RF type transmitting equipment to radiate something, but there's nothing of that in that type of equipment.
So what do you think, Peter? Do you think that this night manager could be telling the truth? There could be something in that room that's paranormal.
Well, you've always got to listen to people, especially if there's a few people that have the same story. I suppose if you rule out all the logical explanations, the simple, then what's left?
What's left indeed? A rogues gallery of ghosts? The bolt from the blue had really got me thinking about the enigmatic nature of this place. By day, it is stunningly beautiful, but something was happening here way beyond my understanding. I decided to get a psychic medium's point of view.
This was not a very nice place to be, even if it was a hospital.
Going by the alias of Ruby, she was well known for supporting police in investigating cold cases.
I can see people sort of down and a little bit despondent about coming in here, because I feel that once you came here, this was the end of it. You know, you wouldn't come out of here again. I do feel it was a very sad place, as it would be, because of all the illness that was here and the people that were suffering here. And there's the matron's outfit. I didn't see the red, but I did actually see her in the white outfits that I used to have. I can actually see her standing over there in this corner over here and looking out at the windows. She's here. She's standing over there. She's right there. She's standing there. She's not very happy. She's not actually very happy with us being here. And I can actually see that. I don't know whether you can't see, but those cupboards over there, if they would open and close and open and close. And occasionally, when she was not happy with people being here, if you ever have a group coming through, she'll bang those cupboard doors.
The door just slammed shut.
It seemed that the mysterious behaviour of doors was a common occurrence at the quarantine station.
But she is standing over here. There's a male standing here, just over here, near that doorway there. He was more one that was quite interested in the young ladies that would come in here. Maybe if I use the word a sexual predator, I can actually see him grinning. It's a very uneasy feeling.
Could Ruby be seeing the creepy doctor that Dean had talked about?
Quite an angry energy, like a male energy, who I believe to be a doctor.
Down in the shower blocks, there was more to come.
Some people were happy to be here and some people were not happy to be here.
It was clear that Ruby's psychic senses were still on high alert.
Oh, this is a woman screaming here or something. She's not that happy. I think she's actually, one of the things I'm seeing is that I think she's sunburnt because I see her skin all red.
This was eerily consistent with what I'd heard from the education and research team at the station.
Carbolic acid became very popular in the 19th century as a disinfectant. In the acid showers here at the quarantine station, you were showering them and you weren't rinsing off after your shower.
She's either been out in the sun and she's sunburnt and they put her in a hot shower, or she's just got, come down with something.
You would start feeling a hot, dry, tight, burning sensation, and the top few layers of skin would start peeling off.
She's all red all over her body.
You can imagine people with very sensitive skin that could have been pretty brutal.
I decided to get a second psychic's perspective, so I contacted psychic medium Christina, who agreed to see what she could glean.
Do you want to get out?
I was intrigued to discover that, at least in the shower block, Christina's impressions were similar to Ruby's.
Yes, burning. I feel hot. It's hot. The walls are hot.
She was even drawn to the same shower stall.
Grind.
Having felt the heat in the shower block, Christina copped a chilling reception in the gravedigger's cottage.
Cold. Breathing.
Paranormal investigators claim cold spots to be indicators of spiritual presence.
Oh, it's freezing there. Oh, it's like a freezer.
Really?
Yes.
She wouldn't let me go through. She said it's freezing.
It's freezing there. It's like a freezer.
It's right there.
Pull me.
Oh my God, my heart nearly leaped out of my chest. Christina later described her experience as her arm being pulled back by strong, invisible hands.
My whole body was pulled in. And when I was pulling, I just pulled my arm like this, and I got hurt, and got a big bruise on my arm, and I just felt the energy like somebody's just want to take me inside the room.
We didn't see who it was, but there was someone there.
Had we actually captured Sam, the serial shover in action?
Yeah, look through the bruise.
Fortunately, it was only a surface injury. There's a lot of conflicting information about whether an entity can actually get physical. What I've seemed to notice is the people that actually claim to have had experiences where there's been a physical exchange, that they tend to be people that claim to have a sensitive gift. Maybe it has something to do with that. The footage landed my partner Rebecca and I on national morning television in Australia.
Yeah, wow,
I was laughing until they slow-moed that.
Yeah, it's scary, huh? So joining us now, the director, Bianca Biassi, and producer, Rebecca Biassi. It's great to have you both with us.
Thank you.
There's stuff out there, isn't there?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, there's stuff out there. So with what you just saw there, we were actually just doing a little bit of a recce at the Gravedigger's Cottage. We kind of feel that, look, there's obviously stuff out there, but it's stuff that I always thought could be explained in so many other ways. After this experience, I'm completely convinced. I can state here and now, we did not stage this footage, but it did generate a load of controversy, both for and against its authenticity. Soon things went viral, and I was fielding radio interview requests from all around the globe. Probably the biggest reason why I chose the quarantine station was because of the urban legends of the quarantine station. When you're a teenager, and even when you're an adult,
You know, you're told ghost stories about the local area. And even when you go to the pub and, you know, have a drink with your mates, it always comes up. Someone will always mention the quarantine station and what they've experienced there.
The ruckus also drew the attention of another witness, Veronica, a local ghost buff, performing artist and quarantine station enthusiast.
Should we go to the end? I could feel someone touching my head just now, kind of like tingling sensation on my head, on top of my head. The quarantine station is definitely one of the most haunted locations here in Australia. I've actually done 15 ghost tours here at the quarantine station. So in Gravedigger's cottage, I had the most experiences. As soon as I walk there, I can definitely feel a shift in energy. I think the best one would be for my 25th birthday. I came to quarantine station for ghostly sleepover. It was just me and 4 friends, and then another group of 3 people. My friend was asking me how many people will be coming today. So I said it's, you know, only just 5 of us and then 4 of them. All my friends looked at me and said, 4, there's only 3 of them standing there. And I said, no, the lady with long hair just joined them. And they were all looking at me and saying, there's no lady with long hair. And I was just looking at them. I couldn't believe they couldn't see her because she looked, you know, so human-like. And then she just disappeared and I haven't seen her for the rest of the night.
It was stories like this that left me grasping for answers. I wondered how much was the result of our own fear and imagination. For me, it was certainly triggering memories of my own childhood experience. Until now, I had kept them firmly locked away, deep in my psyche, and I planned to keep it that way. Right now, my mission was clear, to see if I could get more concrete evidence of the strange happenings here. I reached out to a team of professional ghost hunters to help step up our investigation. I didn't know what to expect, but I was keen to find out.